You think you're waking up to start your day. But what if you're actually setting a trap? Every single morning, millions of us follow a routine that feels completely normal. We check our phones before our feet hit the floor. We grab a coffee, we rush out the door. It feels like productivity. It feels harmless. But neurologists are now sounding the alarm. These exact habits are creating a slow-motion health crisis. We aren't talking about sudden freak accidents. We are talking about the silent daily erosion of your brain's blood vessels that, for many, leads to a stroke when it's far too late to turn back. In this video, we aren't just sharing tips. We are breaking down the 7 morning traps that are sabotaging your brain health. If you've ever felt foggy, tired, or anxious by noon, you need to hear this. But first, we have to talk about the digital poison you're injecting into your brain the very second your eyes open. Habit 1. You reach for your phone. Before your feet have even touched the floor, your brain is already fighting a war. You're scrolling through headlines, checking work emails, or catching up on the chaos of the world. But here is the neurological truth. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a real physical threat and a stressful news story on your screen. The moment you see that urgent notification, your body dumps cortisol, the primary stress hormone, straight into your bloodstream. Your blood pressure spikes, your blood vessels constrict. You are literally stress testing your cardiovascular system to its limit before you've even brushed your teeth. Think about the math of this. If you do this every single morning, you are forcing your brain's delicate arteries to endure an unnecessary stress spike for hundreds of hours every year. Neurologists warn that it's not one big event that causes a stroke. It's the cumulative, daily wear and tear on those vessels that eventually leads to a breaking point. You're starting your day in fight or flight mode when you should be starting it in a state of calm. Habit number 2. The coffee-first mistake. You've just finished your digital stress spike. Your cortisol is through the roof, and now you're reaching for that first cup of tea or coffee. You swear you need it to wake up. You think it's the fuel your brain is begging for. But neurologists look at that cup very differently. Think about what happens while you sleep. For 7 or 8 hours, you haven't had a single drop of water. Your body is essentially a desert. Your blood volume has dropped, and your blood has become physically thicker, more viscous. It is harder for your heart to pump that thick, dehydrated blood through the tiny, microscopic vessels in your brain. Now, instead of drinking water, you pour caffeine into that system. Caffeine is a potent diuretic. It doesn't just not hydrate you, it actively pulls more fluid out of your system. You are taking a dehydrated, stressed, and caffeine-addicted engine and forcing it to run a marathon before it's even had a drop of oil. When you drink caffeine on an empty, dehydrated stomach, your blood pressure doesn't just rise, it jolts. That sudden increase in pressure against the walls of your blood vessels, which are already constricted from the stress of your phone, creates a perfect storm. It puts an immediate, unnecessary strain on the heart and the vascular system. Over months and years, this isn't just about feeling a caffeine crash at 11 a.m. It is about the physical impact of that daily, repeated spike in blood pressure. You are taking a system that needs gentle transition and forcing it into a high-intensity state. But wait, if you think that's bad, the third habit is arguably even more common. Most people think they are being efficient by lying in bed or sitting perfectly still while they have that first drink. But by staying stagnant, you are failing the one test your brain needs to pass every morning to stay healthy. Habit number 3. The scroll stagnation. You didn't move, you didn't hydrate, and now you're just sitting there, curled in bed or slumped on the sofa, scrolling. It feels like you're resting or waking up slowly. You think you're being kind to yourself, but neurologists call this the rust factor. Think about your body like a high-end complex machine. After 7 or 8 hours of sleep, your body isn't just off. It's in a state of low power mode. Your blood circulation is at its slowest. Your muscles are stiff. Most importantly, your brain is waiting for a signal that the day has officially begun. When you stay in bed or sit perfectly still for 20, 30, or 40 minutes after waking, you are essentially letting your system rust in place. Your blood isn't being pumped efficiently. Your brain is starved of the fresh, oxygenated flow, it needs to switch on its cognitive functions. You're essentially telling your body, stay in sleep mode, even though the world is already moving. This isn't just about feeling groggy or tired. It's about the long-term impact on your vascular health. When your circulation stays sluggish for long periods every morning, you contribute to poor blood flow patterns. Over time, that stiffness, that low energy state, and that lack of circulation become your body's default setting. You are training your brain to stay asleep while your responsibilities are piling up. And here is the danger. When you finally do jump up because you're late, your system has to emergency start. That sudden jolt of movement, from a state of total stillness to running out the door, creates another unnecessary spike in blood pressure. You're literally creating a stop and start cycle that puts pressure on your heart and brain vessels every single day. Habit number 4, the sugar rush breakfast. You're finally up. You've moved, you've grabbed your coffee, and now you're sitting down to eat. For millions of people, this is a bowl of cereal, a stack of biscuits with tea, or a heavy, oil-soaked paratha. You tell yourself, it's just breakfast. I need the energy to get through the morning. But here is what's happening inside your brain while you enjoy that sweetness. When you wake up, your blood sugar is at its lowest. Your system is in a fragile, sensitive state. If you immediately flood that system with refined sugar or heavy processed fats, you trigger a massive, rapid spike in your blood glucose. Your pancreas goes into emergency mode, pumping out a massive dose of insulin to handle the surge. And then, the crash. Within 90 minutes, your blood sugar plummets just as hard as it spiked. This is the glucose roller coaster. And every time you ride that coaster, you are creating inflammation in your blood vessels. Neurologists have found that chronic, unstable blood sugar levels are directly linked to cognitive decline and vascular damage. You aren't just feeling tired at 10 a.m., you are forcing your brain to constantly adapt to wildly fluctuating energy levels. When your brain doesn't have a steady fuel source, it struggles to maintain focus, it struggles with memory, and it starts to throttle its own performance to survive the energy instability. Think about it. Would you treat your car's engine by pouring high-grade fuel in 1 second and then dumping sludge in the next? Of course not. But that is exactly what you are doing to your brain every single morning. You're asking it to function at a high level while you're starving it and then suffocating it with a sugar spike at the same time. Habit number 5, the rush start. You open your eyes and before you've even had a second to breathe, your mind is already in the future. You're counting the hours until your first meeting. You're worrying about the deadline. You're stressed about the piling up responsibilities. Some people actually jump out of bed with their muscles already tensed, their jaw clenched, and their heart beating faster than it needs to. When you start your day in a state of rush, you are essentially turning your brain into an invisible pressure cooker. You are constantly triggering your autonomic nervous system to keep you in a state of high alert. You think you're being productive or diligent by staying ahead of the stress, but you're actually exhausting your brain's resources before you've even faced a real problem. Neurologists emphasize that the brain functions at its peak when it moves from a state of calm to a state of focus, not when it starts in a state of chaos. When you are chronically rushed, your blood vessels remain in a state of mild, persistent constriction. This isn't a temporary spike anymore. It's your new baseline reality. Your brain becomes conditioned to live in a state of tension, which makes it significantly harder for you to find clarity or solve problems when the day actually does get difficult. You are training your brain that life equals pressure, and that mindset is a breeding ground for long-term vascular health issues. You are essentially telling your brain that the world is an emergency, and your brain is responding by locking up the systems that keep you healthy and resilient. Habit number 7, the no buffer zone. This is the one everyone ignores, and it is arguably the most dangerous for your brain's long-term health. It is simply this: you do not give your brain a transition period between sleep and the chaos of the world. Think about it. Sleep is a state of total internal recovery. The world is a state of constant external demand. When you wake up and instantly jump into work, emails, family demands, or loud media, you are slamming your brain against a wall. You are forcing your nervous system to skip the most important phase of the day, the buffer zone. Neurologists emphasize that your brain needs a transition. It needs a moment to stabilize its blood pressure, balance its hormone levels, and shift from the subconscious state of sleep to the conscious state of high-level thinking. When you skip this transition, you are essentially dry starting your brain's engine every single morning. This isn't just about feeling calm. This is about vascular resilience. When you give yourself a 5 to 10 minute buffer, whether it's deep breathing, simple stretching, or just sitting in silence without a screen, you are allowing your blood pressure to naturally normalize. You are telling your brain, we are safe, we are ready, and we have time. By creating this buffer, you are literally lowering the stroke risk profile of your entire morning. You are protecting your delicate brain vessels from the daily spikes of stress that we've talked about today. You don't need an hour. You don't need an expensive gym routine. You just need to stop being the one who attacks your own brain the second you open your eyes.